AITA for breaking up with my girlfriend for giving in to peer pressure? My ex-girlfriend, 27F, and I, 29M, had been together for just over a year. I broke up with her last week after yet another situation where her inability to stand up for herself crossed a serious line. The first red flag happened 5 months ago. She came to my apartment after a night out with her friends and confessed, tearfully, that she had made out with another guy. Her excuse? Her friends were pressuring her to loosen up and live a little, and she didn't want to look uptight in front of them. I was furious but decided to forgive her because she was honest and apologized immediately. However, I told her that this wasn't okay, and we agreed that she wouldn't go out drinking with those friends again since they clearly didn't respect her boundaries or mine. Fast forward to last week. She told me she was taking a mental health day and would be hanging out with friends. What she didn't mention was that she was heading to a cabin in a small town with those same friends. I found out when she texted me after the fact, casually saying she'd be back later that evening. This was frustrating enough. I don't think it's unreasonable to want a heads up about a trip, especially with friends I've already expressed concerns about. When she came over the next day, I pressed her about what happened. She initially said it was just a relaxing day with the girls, but something about her tone felt off. I kept asking, and after 3 days of her denying that anything unusual happened, she finally broke down and admitted the truth. One of her friends had been pressuring her for weeks to join a threesome with her and her husband. My ex claimed she'd been saying no repeatedly but eventually gave in to the pressure and went to the cabin with them. She swore that nothing happened and that they didn't go all the way, but at that point, it didn't matter to me. I told her the relationship was over. I explained that while I understood feeling pressured, going to the cabin was her choice. Staying friends with people who constantly push her to violate her own boundaries and mine was her choice. I also told her she needed to seriously think about why she surrounds herself with people who bring out the worst in her. She cried and accused me of blaming her for something she didn't have control over. I told her she absolutely had control unless they dragged her to the cabin at gunpoint. Her decisions were her own. Now her brother is texting me, saying I'm being too harsh and that I should be helping her work through her issues instead of walking away. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's my responsibility to stay in a relationship where my trust and boundaries are repeatedly disregarded. So, AITA for ending things? Update. After my original post, I didn't expect the overwhelming response, but I appreciate all the input. Since then, a lot has happened, and I wanted to provide an update. Following the breakup, her brother started texting me, saying I was being too harsh and that I should have stuck around to help her work through her issues. He seemed to think it was my duty to support her no matter what, but I felt differently. I ultimately blocked him because it started to feel like emotional manipulation, and I needed to focus on myself. My ex also reached out. She sent me a long message apologizing for her choices but still framed herself as a victim of her friend's influence. She said she felt abandoned and claimed I wasn't giving her a chance to prove she could change. While I understand she's struggling, I can't ignore the fact that her actions consistently crossed boundaries we agreed on. Then things got even more complicated. One of her friends, the same one who invited her to the cabin, messaged me on Instagram after seeing my original post. She claimed that my ex wasn't completely truthful. According to her, my ex had been joking about joining their threesome for weeks and wasn't as resistant as she claimed. While the friend admitted they pressured her, she also said my ex willingly went to the cabin and had been flirting with the idea for some time. This information only solidified my decision to walk away. It confirmed what I already knew: her friend group is toxic, and she's unwilling or unable to distance herself from them. While I empathize with her struggles, I can't continue to stay in a relationship where trust and boundaries are repeatedly disregarded. It's been tough, but I feel at peace with my decision. I've spent the last week reconnecting with friends and rediscovering hobbies I'd let fall to the wayside. I hope my ex eventually realizes how damaging her friendships have been and makes changes for her own sake. However, that's her journey to take, and I can't set myself on fire to keep her warm. Thanks again to everyone who shared their thoughts. This experience has reminded me of the importance of respecting boundaries, being accountable for your actions, and knowing when it's time to walk away.